Hello folks, my name is Butch Bouvier and I'm going to introduce this video you're about to watch. In the winter of 2021-2022, I headed up a group of both volunteers and paid individuals to replace the boat at Nebraska City Visitor Center. The original craft had been donated by a wonderful organization and it had served this area well, but it had just rotted away. It just wasn't going to last any longer. It was never built to last that many years. It was a movie prop, and it did the best it could do, and it served everybody. But we had to give it a Viking funeral because it was time to replace it. The first thing we did was we turned around and disassembled it so we could get it out of there. And then, like I said, we gave it a Viking funeral, and you're going to see that. And from those ashes, the new boat, should have been named Phoenix, but it wasn't, arose, and we spent the whole winter putting it together. But first we had to prepare a place for it, and that's what you're going to see first, is how we took the original area, that little deck that they had in front of it, we expanded that and just improved the looks of everything so that they'd have a place at the center to do programming and things of that nature, good solid programming. We wanted to set this up so that educational programming could be really intensified. This is a guy that came in to get the boat out. And it ended up, he pretty much volunteered his time too, which was a pretty nice thing. If it wasn't for volunteers, you'd get nothing done. This boat turned out that it was so heavy they could barely lift it. And what we did not know was, I didn't know it either, but buried deep inside that hull were two giant I-beams. And they were several tons each. And so they had a lot of weight they were picking up. And all that yellow stuff you see, that is it's like a blown-in foam. Like I said, it was a movie prop. It was made for a movie to be used once and then destroyed. And it had a lot longer life than that. But it was just not going to make it anymore. I might mention that Doug Shima is doing, put this video together. He actually shot this video and some other ones. And Mr. Shima was an intricate part of getting all this put on film, which was a nice thing. There's the old girl getting up out of there. And they pulled it up on a flatbed and they took it over to an area that they were going to burn it in. It was supposed to be a controlled burn. To some degree it was. I noticed we had people out there stomping out flames, but that's okay, got the job done. We have a pretty lively bunch of people working on this. How are we going to do this? I don't know, let's try this and see if it works. So you can see how rotted the boat was. It was just in terrible, terrible shape. What we did not know was that once it burnt, it was going to leave a metal framework. Kind of crazy. We didn't know that metal framework was in there. That boat was built someplace in Utah.
God, look at that smoke just rolling out of there.
In the early 2000s. And so when the boat burnt, there was still like a framework of it there. It was kind of crazy. So now we came back and we looked at that deck, and it was not that good a shape. And we decided, hey, there I am saying, hey, Doug, and Brian Robertson. And we said, you know what? We got to have a deck to put the boat on. And the other deck is in tough shape. Why don't we just expand on it? So we did. We just kind of went crazy. Doug went out and raised the money. And we bought a lot more material. Well, you'll probably notice that that's where the boat's currently sitting. That's the boat platform. And everybody, Mr. Friedley, he runs the center, and he always pitches in the works. His assistant, Jim Nimitz, those two guys, they just do 1,000 things in a day's time. Here's Jim with his chainsaw. He was loading chainsaw. There's where the boat sits. There's the new deck, 3 times the size of the last one. Nice wheelchair nice handicap accessible ramp. There's my team. Keelboat is born. So then, got the deck done, got everything done, and it was okay. We're going to go build this boat. We worked in a barn over in Iowa. It was Sterling Fichter. It was his place. And he had this great big huge garage attached to his house, and we just took it over. Sterling didn't have any heat in his garage. He never heated it. And we really didn't want to have an open flame in there, so I designed this barrel stove. And we had it outside, and we piped the warm air in. It was a stove within a stove. He was my lead carpenter on it. And that's Sterling, his brother. He was my second lead carpenter. This gentleman here is Isaac Fichter. Sterling did a lot of blacksmithing. He did the hinges and stuff, the rudders, did all them blacksmithing. Made them up. I was an advisor, technical advisor, and historian on the project. And these were the 3 team members that just really put it all together and made it happen. There were an awful lot of people that made a huge difference in it that had to help us to get it done, but we were the decision maker. I would have to estimate it. I've done 12 of these now, and I would estimate the weight of this boat, the way it was built, at anywhere between 10 and 11 tons total when it's all put together. We had to haul it over there on a 20-foot flatbed trailer. We couldn't haul it in one piece. We didn't have anything large enough to move it. And you can see how we built the sections so they would interlock as they went over there. We'd build them in. Actually, what we did was we'd build the first section, and then we'd start building the second section. And we'd just build a little bit of the second section. There's Sterling putting the floor in the cabin. Say hi, Sterling.
Hi.
And then we would take the first section over, put the other section back in the shop and finish it, and then repeat the process 4 times to get it all done. So that, and if you look at the boat and the part that interlock, like finger joints, you may be standing here looking at it now, or you may be watching this in the theater and having seen the boat, but you can't see where the joints are. That was the whole idea. The whole boat's built out of pressure treated wood, and obviously Lewis Clark didn't have pressure treated lumber, but they didn't have maintenance issues either. And what we didn't want to do was, we didn't want another boat that would rot away in 10 years. So we went all pressure treated lumber on it. And you got to remember, this craft is an educational program tool. It's all about synchronization. The first craft that we replaced was a movie tool. It was a prop. This is kind of a prop. It is the exact. That's how you get a boat on a trailer with greased skids and healthy young men. But we want ours to last long. To say that we know exactly what the original looked like, we can't do that, because we really don't know. We have drawings, and you saw those drawings, and obviously you've seen them before you've seen this. And based on them, and we were religious as far as covering them. So when we brought the sections to the park, we had to roll them back like this on these big steel pipes, which were donated by Del Hervey of Plattsmouth. And once you get that on a pipe, you can move it pretty easy. You know what? Lewis and Clark used oakum and pine pitch, in some cases tar. We used a black caulk, which simulates that. We had planned on working on the deck and stuff until it snowed. And then we were going to quit working on the deck and go build the boat. And boy, the weather was fantastic. And we finished the deck, and the next day it snowed. Like, oh boy, who planned this? So we went and started building the boat. So by the time we had the boat ready to be delivered, the deck was done. And those lifting mechanisms they're using, those came off the Chicago docks from the 1920s. There's no doubt in my mind that some of the booze that went into Chicago during the Depression were lifted by them. Guy had given me those, so I donated them to the cause. And I left them with the boys at the farm. I said, you'll find use for these boys, and I'm sure they will. Well, you see how easy the pieces move once you get them on them pipes. They just roll right in there. And then as the fingers of the planks lock together, they were together when we started building, so now that we got the section done, they could go in and match right back up again, and they do. We were more concerned about longevity and lack of maintenance than anything else. Varnishing is a thing that once you start, you never quit. We use linseed oil and turpentine, and we put a little stain with it so that the boat have some brownness to it. Now that's the only thing that probably we shouldn't have done, because quite frankly the original boat would have turned gray in no time with no sealer at all on it. But that's kind of a public kind of like to see that. Yeah, sometimes you have to make allowances for what people like and what they don't like and what they expect. Nothing uglier than a gray old piece of wood, which is what all pieces of wood eventually turn to if you don't maintain them. But this is easy because all you got to do is come back and mix linseed oil, turpentine, and stain, and spray it with a Hudson sprayer, or what they call a garden sprayer. And do that once every 2 years, and she'll maintain a nice look. You don't have to worry about rot because it's pressure-treated lumber. So let's see if we did it right. Let's see if it's going to match up.
With some of the best 10 people in the world. All trucking for normal.
We got 2 pipes out. Probably gonna wait, just doing one more. Yeah, I think
We'll have to pinch it over, guys.
we'll have to what?
We have to pinch it this way a little bit. Pinch
Yeah.
it. Yeah. With a pry bar, pinch. Pinch. Push it. Yes, sir. It'll push easy. One guy can push it.
Right in the boat.
Slide her in, boys. Now there's my team. Sterling, me, and Isaac. Together like a glove. Some of my handiwork that I did metal-wise, and these are all pieces for the mast. If you look, you can see these pieces on the boat. And then the awning. There's no other boat in the country that has that center awning that Lewis. And we decided we were going to have that. One of the biggest issues was we were concerned about, once again, longevity and maintenance. Canvas just does not hold up. So we went with a Naugahyde type material. And so far it's holding up beautifully. Doug Friedley, what a great guy. Doug was brought on board by Irv Friesen, wonderful, wonderful man, who the boat's actually named after, many years ago. Doug and his wife were so instrumental in getting this center built originally. I think they were the key factors that got it kicked off. But he needed somebody to run it because he was still a banker, still busy. And so he tapped Irv Friesen to run it. He said, I just want you to take care of it for a couple of years. Well, about 10 years later, Irv says, well, so when's my tenure up? When are you going to take over, buddy? And our flag was made by Shirley Enos. I designed it based on Gary Lucy's design, and he did the research, and I think he's correct. But she sewed the flag and put it together, did a wonderful job on it.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, what I'm getting decapitated.
So then I'm thinking, okay, after major heart surgery and all kinds of problems, I'm thinking I'm done building boats. And I had been bidding this one for a long time. Doug calls me up and he says, why don't you dust that bid off? Okay. So I went to Sterling, and his brother, Isaac, who's another great friend, great kid, we decided we were going to build it at their place. Build it in the winter and bring it over here and put it together in pieces. And we got our staff, Jim and Doug, who worked just their bottoms off, and Doug Shima. Raise your hand, Doug Shima.
He's got his camera going.
He's got his camera going. He was part of it. And Monroe, she carried screws for me on so many times. She got tired. I'd say, where's my screws? She's there, right there. And there's so many people that pitched in. And Brian, I just had a name.
Robinson.
What? Robinson. Yeah,
okay, Butch, we just met.
Yeah, I know. But bear in mind that this is a teaching aid. It's an educational teaching aid is what it is. And,
Butch has built more Lewis and Clark boats than anybody in the country. He is the premier boat builder for Lewis and Clark Craft. He has written a book called Brown Water. We happen to have for sale, Opal. Right? And if you were to happen to get one tonight, I think a certain Butch would autograph it for you.
Probably, yes.
I also want to recognize our board members who are here. Bill Shank, our chair, thank you. Jim Swenson is here tonight. Sarah, where's Peggy? Peggy. Irv, amongst others. But thank you for our board support to help us keep this operation going, and also to help fundraise for this. We opened on the 200th anniversary. But anyway, on this date, May 21st, William Clark wrote, we dined with Mr. Doucet and set out from St. Charles at 3:30 o'clock. And one while, a violent rain with wind from the southwest. We landed on the upper point of the first island on the starboard side and camped. Soon after, it commenced raining and continued the greater part of the night. That happened 218 years ago. Right now.
Some things never change.
On this boat, right? A model of this boat. That's pretty special. Thank you, Butch. Another special thing for tonight is a drawing of a keelboat.
Back in 2000, when I restored the boat that I'd built in 1985 at Lewis and Clark State Park, we took it out on the lake, and the reenactors were pushing the boat with push poles. And my wife was working with an artist, and he wanted her to take pictures, and she's running down the shoreline taking pictures with a photographic camera. And he said, oh yeah, he said, that's a perfect picture. And we ended up with this picture, but it was almost like a Polaroid. And I took it to an artist friend of mine who was an art teacher at school, and I said, hey Jim, could you do something with this? And he turned around and did this as a pencil sketch of that picture. So what's nice about it is, you're getting a picture not of what an artist thinks it looks like to push-pull a keelboat. That's what it looks like to push-pull a keelboat. One of the park rangers at Lewis and Clark State Park said, you cannot name that boat. It's not historically correct. You can't name it Discovery. You're misleading people. And I said, oh, baloney. You're not misleading anybody. That's ridiculous. We're naming it after the core Discovery. 8 years later, during the bicentennial, the United States Post Office put out a stamp with a picture of that boat on the stamp, telling about Lewis and Clark. And then you buy this little 5 stamp set, and you read about it, and in there it says that Lewis and Clark went up the river in a keelboat named Discovery. And I thought, oh my God.
A name for this boat. A very special person who's been part of our organization for years, helped run this operation for over 10 years as director, is still on our board, and his name is
Herb Reese.
We lost him about, I think it was about 14 days after this thing was dedicated.
So this is a special christening bottle. So if you tried to do a regular champagne bottle, you would just whack and whack and whack. They're thick-walled bottles. It would never break.
We've got a brand new exhibit at Nebraska City Visitor Center, and that is the boat. We got better things than that coming too. I mean, we've got a brand new deck, we've got a brand new boat, living history, and all kinds of wonderful programs for kids and stuff, and young people and older people. We got plans. We're going to build a fort. We're going to build the fort that Lewis and Clark had, and it's going to be just between the center and the drive-in, the little wandering little road that you came in on. And we're going to start that in the summer of 23, and hopefully have it done within about 2 years. If you want to know more about the boats of Lewis and Clark, I wrote a book. They got it for sale in here. It's called Brown Water. Ask them about it. Probably tell you more about Lewis and Clark boats than you ever wanted to know. This was not a one-man show. This was a multi-person show. I mean, I headed it up, kind of dreamed it up, designed it, and kind of told everybody what needed to be done, but they did it. Like Sterling and his brother Isaac, their father Mark came down and volunteered his time, and oh my gosh, Doug Friedley and Jim Nimitz just worked their tail off on it, and so many volunteers. Doug Shima, who's on the other side of the camera right now nodding at me, he worked on it. Then he did all this video, and so many people came out of the woodwork, and that's how we get things done. You know, that's how we get these projects going. We're going to need that same kind of support to get this fort built, but trust me, you come back in 2 years, and we're going to have a fort you can tour, and you're going to love every minute of it.